Hi, welcome back to His and Hers.
And I'm David.
I'm Deanna. And today we're going to have a little bit of controversy with sex trafficking and slavery, we're going to talk about.
And why in the world no government does anything about it?
That that's $1 million question.
I mean, they know it exists. The entertainment industry makes movies about this kind of stuff.
I actually Googled, just put in human trafficking movies. It kind of timed out after 50 movies. That's how much movies are actually made about these subjects.
And I mean, I refer back to Rambo, the last blood. And, the young lady that lives at Rambo's house on his ranch or whatever, wants to go find her natural father. So she goes down to Mexico, finds one of her friends double cross her, and for money, of course. And she becomes sex trafficking, addicted to heroin. And of course, Rambo's got to do his thing, goes down there and gets her back. And on the drive back, she winds up dying. So now the cartel's all in an uproar. Rambo's setting up for World War III and the rest of the movie. But we make movies about this. And nobody takes any action to stop this. Is this not a bad thing?
Well, last year there was a big controversial movie that hit the theaters, Sound of Freedom. And one of the reasons it was controversial, it was about, the human sex trafficking of children. The government, some of the Department of Justice was like, this movie is sensationalized. It is not true. And people that had actually lived through experience like, no, it's not. It's actually accurate. So it actually caused this huge uproar over how sensationalized this really is going on. And it actually...
So are they saying it's sensationalized to cover their ass?
Right.
That's my opinion. I think they are.
Yeah. I've personally not seen it, but when I read the synopsis of it, I actually want to see it now and I know a lot of people were talking about it because it's...
I do remember the whole controversy of that movie.
Yeah.
When it came out in theaters.
And I think it's because it got people talking. Because I remember hearing people talk about it, and I was like, "Sound of Freedom." Like, I don't know if I want to see something like that. But now that I've read a little bit more about it, and especially now with the controversy of our Department of Justice saying, "Oh, it's sensationalized." So why would the Department of Justice have such a strong opinion about a movie? It makes you wonder.
Well, I always think that movies are set up so it's an easier pill to swallow when it actually happens.
I mean, there's no doubt. Movies do sometimes amp things up. I mean, how many times you've read a book and then you see the movie, like, that's not what happened in the movie, or that's not what happened in the book. But...
Well, they do that a lot just to shorten
true.
The movie.
But it can't be that much sensationalized is what I'm thinking.
But, I mean, the governments know that this goes on, and nobody takes any actions. I mean, look at all the immigration coming across the Mexican border. And how many news clips have you ever heard going, women are coming over raped and sex trafficking and not even the drugs. The drugs are horrible too, but I am somebody that believes, like, if you're going to start taking drugs, then you should be responsible for what happens afterwards. Child sex trafficking makes me want to throw up. Sex trafficking of women. The slavery of these people. There's no reason for it, but yet it is happening today.
And there's other aspects of this besides the slavery and sex trafficking. Something actually I just read about, I didn't even know existed. Everybody talks about genocide, like what happened in Armenia, Israel and all that stuff. We know about that. But there's a femicide going on too. Some of these countries are actually executing women because they're not up a certain standard. That's like something new that's on the rise. But why?
They're being sold into sex trafficking.
That's exactly what it is. Especially with the femicide. It was just, wow. These girls, because they're not skinny, they're not beautiful, they're not attractive, they're executing because they can't use their bodies. And it's actually getting higher and higher, these numbers, from what I'm understanding. And there's actually women trying to come over at migrants because they're trying to escape the femicide that's going on over in Mexico.
And they're probably going through the process of what they're trying to escape to get here.
Exactly. Exactly.
just whatever. And, I mean, so much power, so much money, just complete corruption in our governments. Do they really care about the people? No, I think they just care about their own wallets and power. Anything they can do. I bet. I mean, like I said, I don't know for a fact, but a lot of people make the comments that they're in bed with the cartels. It's called they're regulating. So if we allow some of this to happen, that's okay. Because if we're allowing some of it to happen, then all of it is not happening. And I don't care where you come to that topic, one person in sex trafficking, especially a minor, especially a kid who's sold into it, and that's all they will ever know is being a freaking sex slave to somebody. That's just wrong.
And the governments actually do acknowledge this stuff. They always bring it up in campaign trails, like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But you never see any, like, they have these, task force. That's their band-aid. Just, we'll make a task force. But you never hear, if anything, you hear it's getting worse.
It is getting worse. I mean, our priorities are so in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we talked about with the sex trafficking of women and children, I mean, they're basically slaves. And we actually have slavery of women and children going on. It has nothing to do with the skin color. It is slavery. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just flat out slavery. It's because you aren't of a certain status. Mm-hmm. So now you're property.
Yeah. I mean,
and the government doesn't want to talk anything about it. And they don't want to do anything about it. Go down to China. I don't know if you know what the Uyghurs are, but they are a Muslim population in China. Well, China will not have anything of that. So if you remember history in Germany with the Jews and the death camps and the even here in California, they used to have work endearment camps for the Japanese when we were at war with Japan. I mean, these kind of camps exist. They're in China, and that's where they put the Muslim population in and enslave them because they're Muslim. No other reason. Not going to practice that religion here.
Slavery's gone on for centuries. I mean, look at Rome.
Before the United States, people.
Yeah, look at Rome, the gladiators. The gladiators were actually slaves that they made fight each other. Everybody knows about the Colosseum. That's what actually happened to
Colosseum. Well, look who built the pyramids. That was even before that.
Right. So, I mean, it's always been there. So why has it?
Slavery has always existed.
In this day and age, it shouldn't have. Everybody, oh, it's wrong. It's wrong. It is wrong. So why is it still going on?
I mean, in Africa, all right, you got children. Have you ever heard of conflict diamonds? All right, they are diamonds mined from Africa by slaves. Most of them, children.
Yeah. In fact, there was a movie, I think it was called Blood Diamond, if I remember it, but they call them blood diamonds because these kids literally die to get these diamonds.
They are called blood diamonds. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know this is going on. So why are we not doing anything about it? If we're so much in an uproar about slavery and the history and the past and the anger and, do not want to focus on how far, for example, the United States has moved forward, because we don't have slaves here. Europe doesn't have slaves. I mean, we're not doing anything about the existence of slavery in today's world. We just like to argue because the government likes to separate us. We like to argue about the history of the way things were.
They don't take anybody has anything to do with slavery. They don't do anything until it hits their pocketbook. Remember about 15 years ago, Martha Stewart, she had a clothing line at, I think it was Kmart, if I remember right. That's how long ago it was.
What's Kmart?
Came out. Her stuff was being manufactured by the sweatshops in China, and the children that were making them were only making like 12 cents an hour. And everybody was in an uproar that this woman is employing people for 12 cents and their kids. Again, that's slavery.
Hey, LeBron James came out about his shoes that are made. Same thing in China, in sweatshops.
People started boycotting, refused to buy the stuff. Martha Stewart eventually, she acknowledged it. And it's possible that she didn't know what was going on, because it's usually not her that's running a business. It's a business manager. I'm going to give her that small amount of doubt because it is very possible.
It's your business. You should know what is going on in
I
your
agree.
business from start to finish.
Oh, I agree.
And what gets me a little bit more about LeBron James, Martha Stewart, white woman. LeBron James, black man, grew up in the hood, was just amazing athletic ability, made a superstar of himself. And he basically, to make his shoes, employs slavery.
Yeah, it is a little.
He's a big proponent about how slaves and all this stuff, our history and everything like that. He's very against it, which, I mean, we all are, right? But I mean, he still acts like, we're to blame and this generation of people. But yet here he is employing children in sweatshops and families to make his shoes. And then all of a sudden he just shut up. He didn't say another word about it, just played basketball and moved on like, all right, got caught. And then what's that about the people in power?
Yeah. Well, I know with Martha Stewart, she did try to correct it. She actually took her clothing line out of that area and she actually started having it made supposedly in the United States. She acknowledged it was wrong. She actually tried to correct it. But
give her credit. I did not know that.
Yeah, she actually did try to correct it because she was trying. And at the time, too, you got to remember, she had just gotten out of prison. So she was really trying to reform her image, too. So she did try to correct it. But
that was a whole freaking thing. Getting off topic.
Yeah.
That was a whole different thing about Martha Stewart going to prison. Our government, the people that write our laws, that know what stocks to invest in years before, because they're writing laws that are going to make those companies' stock prices go through the roof. That's okay, because they can invest in like, wait, but Martha Stewart gets a tip, takes it. She didn't do anything different than anybody else would have done.
That is definitely a whole different podcast because there's
that's
many
a whole
examples.
That's a whole nother.
That's another topic.
But the question that I have for everybody is the world governments. Why don't they do anything? I mean, you would think this would be one rally cry that the world can get behind. Not only the governments, but the people can rally behind to abolish slavery around the world, to abolish sex trafficking of people. You would think that this is one thing that the world can get behind.
For me, and this is just my opinion, and admittedly, I don't know, but it does make me wonder, how much does the government actually have a hand in it? Are they getting money off this or what? I don't know. It makes you wonder because it is something that goes on.
I mean, we talked about movies earlier with, Rambo and
Sound of Freedom.
I mean, let's talk about our government. Remember the House of Cards? I mean, I think that's just a fraction of how business is done, the way they bully each other and they freaking make backdoor deals to get there. I mean, I think that was just such a sliver. I mean, I remember watching that going, oh my God, this is freaking crazy. And then it dawned on me but this isn't really how it's done. It's done 100 times worse than this because it's all about them and not about us. I mean, my favorite, I'm sorry.
You're good.
But my favorite line was Kevin Spacey in there. And he's with this prostitute. And she's like, why do you do this? Why do you could do this and that, whatever, and and the money. And he tells the girl, he goes, honey, it's not about the money. It's about the power to control someone, the power over people. That's what this is about. And I just sat there and I thought freaking, he hit it on the head with it. Everybody that is very wealthy, millionaires, billionaires, whatever, it's about, and in our governments, it's about having control and the power over people.
As he was talking, it just popped in my head. I will admit, admittedly, it's a guy's thing. So David's going to know more about this than me because it's the man's Bible. Godfather.
Godfather. Little difference.
Yeah. Godfather. The mob and how all that played in, and the government was involved. Yeah. The church was involved. They're all bed with each other.
The way the mob and the government got involved was you basically had the GOP, who was all about business, all about corporate America, and not about the people. Then you had the Democrats, who used to be, not in today's world, in my opinion. You might have a different one, but I think both parties are not about people. But the Democrats, who were for the working class, got in bed with the mob because the mob had the muscle. And the mob would threaten corporate America. I mean, physically, literally, every which way. They would threaten. And they had the power and the people, and they had the government of the Democratic side behind them. And that's how basically the working class is supposed to be Democrats, because that was the way things were way back in the day. Not so much anymore. But that's how the mob got involved. And that's how they got in bed with the government, was because the Democratic Party needed the muscle to go against corporate America, not by laws or anything, but to bully them.
Well, with cartels that supposedly does these sex trafficking, isn't that a glorified version of the mob?
Well, you have the cartels now. That's basically the mob.
Yeah.
With the cartels now. But, I mean, and even with that, I mean, like, our government, our senator, like, I remember watching another movie, G.I. Joe.
Mm.
And they got the senator leaving the steps and all that. And he's coming out, and the guy's like, hey, this hot, beautiful, gorgeous reporter, very young or whatever, wants an interview with you. And he says, well, if she wants a private interview with me, she can meet me in my room, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to show her an interview. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's our government. That's our government. And everything they accuse us of, they're doing because they think they're above all of us.
Yeah. I mean, there has been controversies. You had the thing that happened with Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. And I'm a big JFK fan. I'm a fan of Rick of Camelot, that everybody knows JFK was whoring around. So it goes to show.
And it's all covered up.
It's all covered up.
You are.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Jeffrey Epstein. They silenced that so fast you make your head spin. Oh, he's killed. Bye. And wanted to they want to bring out all the big name actors, government officials.
There's only been a few that's been leaked.
Yeah.
And one of them was Prince Andrew, because there was photographic evidence of him with Epstein at parties with the girl that like blew the whistle off this whole thing. And what happened to Prince Andrew? He was told to step back, which is the same thing Prince Harry did. So what's the Harry stepped back because he wants to be a family man. Andrew steps back because he
got
caught. So how is it a punishment?
And if he didn't get caught, would he still be doing it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Bill Clinton. They said that his name was the most common on the flights back and forth to Epstein Island. He had the most trips back and forth. And look what's happened to him. Yeah. Nothing.
Well, it depends on your definition. A lot of people think his wife had a lot to involve with that Epstein thing, and how he's mysteriously is no longer with us.
I mean, it seems like if you're a person of power in our government, person of wealth, you are not held to the same responsibilities that we are, the common people. I mean, if you have power, you have money, these kind of things happen, and we just move on because, and don't forget, they control the media.
But that just when you said that, like, you're right. The more power you have, the more money you have, the more you're going to be able to control things. There's a movie a long time ago. I forget what movie it was from, but there was a line in it where they said about Motley Crue, Vince Neil killed a guy and he got off scot-free. When you're a rock star, you can do whatever you want. And that line is sticking out in my head because that's what's going on. If you're a rock star, movie star, government official, you can do whatever you want, and you're just going to get a slap in the wrist. If you can name one person that actually got the right, what do you call it, punishment for the crime, I love to hear
scapegoat.
A scapegoat.
It's always a scapegoat of lesser.
Because I can't think. of anybody.
What's his name? Eric Holder, who was Obama's defense director or something like that. But he was supposed to destroy a whole bunch of guns. I mean, I'm talking automatic weapons. I mean, thousands of them. And then all of a sudden it finds out these guns are killing Americans. And they traced it back that Eric Holder, somehow that the guns he's supposed to destroy wound up in Mexico in their cartels, and nothing happened to the man. He had to step down from Secretary of Defense, I think it was. Had to step down. That was it.
Meanwhile, if we had done something like that, we would have been probably on death row.
So I mean, why doesn't our government do anything about sex trafficking or even trafficking of people and the slavery that still exists in this world? In Africa and in China, probably other places that I'm not sure of. But I mean, do they profit from it? Do they keep their power because they're working with? Do they do it to keep justifying their jobs? They keep us in chaos. They keep these negative events going on because it gives them a campaign, because it angers us, because we are emotional. We all have emotion. I mean, why does the world government not do anything? I mean, anything about this? And even back to Ronald Reagan with Nancy Reagan, like war on drugs. I'm doing a war on drugs. That's what she's famous for, right?
Just say no.
Yeah, but during that time, every freaking rock star, every actor and actress, everybody in the government were all on cocaine. And yet she's like, say no to drugs and, war on drugs.
There's a famous picture of Elvis with Nixon, and it was supposed to be his anti-drugs, and he was high on drugs. I mean, that's one of the most famous things out there.
You go to drug test them. Oh, you're high on drugs, you're getting arrested. Nope. It just seemed like an empty campaign, an empty war, empty everything. Just sounded good in people's ears. Something people could stand behind, but because it's government, can't do that. You know how much money we're going to lose? You know how much power? I mean, I just, slavery and sex trafficking or trafficking, I said, of anybody is wrong. You think that would be an easy rally for the world to get behind. And as I said, not just the governments to get behind a cause, but the people in this world to get behind, separated by oceans and thousands of miles. You would think that, hey, we can get behind this and take no prisoners. All right, let's get rid of some of the bad apples. Freaking, you die of lead poisoning. I mean, let's start cleansing the world of this kind of stuff. We could start with that.
You know what? I just had a thought pop in my head when he said about the sex trafficking and the slavery, and it not in this country. Actually, I think it is in this country. Regular prostitution, because a lot of them women are trying to, provide.
Get out of debt.
Right. But they're also addicted to drugs because their pimps and whatever are feeding them drugs so that they can go out doing it.
Yeah,
is that not the definition of sex trafficking? Is that not the definition of being a slave to someone? Because they're actually holding the weakness against them. So it does exist in this.
I mean, I go to Colombia, and I go down there, and I love the people of Medellin. And prostitution's legal there. And what you don't know about is the cartel kinds of runs it. And these girls are held to a certain point. I mean, because there's no welfare. There's no free money or anywhere. Either you got to make money or not. They provide the jobs. The girls take them. But I do know that, they're not held. At least I don't think they're held, because they can leave. Like, all right, you're done. You're out. Bye. And go find other work. I mean, if you're going to volunteer and do it because even if it's like, I've got to make money, I've got to live, I've got to this, it's still your choice. But to be held, like you were just saying, by your pimp, addicted to drugs, freaking paying off debt because, it's the only way that's just slavery and being a prisoner of slavery.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought of that. Like, you know what? It does exist. But that's like one of those things people out of sight, out of mind too. Because a lot of people, like I said, we didn't think of it at first. But it was more I thought about it. It does. Out of sight, out of mind. That's why maybe the government doesn't want to do anything because of
Mm.
that. Who
You
knows?
know, probably a lot of them are involved with the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, so what's your opinion? What do you think? It's just this topic, I think it makes me want to throw up. I just, like I said, I always tell her that if I was president, this would be one war I'd take. And I could care less what the world thought of me. I would freaking it would stop. And I don't care. I don't care if I got to pull the military. I don't care if I'd have to call out the world leaders. And I don't care. I'd be like, you are for this because you're doing nothing about it. Gotcha. And I would make sure that I freaking black every eye that I can that night and get the support, because everybody should jump on board to support these causes.
Yeah. I agree. But unfortunately, we get red herrings thrown at us and it gets ignored, in my opinion. Like I said, that's just my opinion. I feel it's something that should be addressed. I don't think it should exist in 2024.
I don't think it should have existed long before that.
Oh, I agree.
Because we are such the most powerful country in the world. We are just the United States of America. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, what's your thoughts? What do you think about this? We love to know. Just shout out your comments. And with that,
thank you for listening.
and don't forget, we're also on Spotify and iTunes. Till next time, we'd love to hear what your opinion is. Bye.
Take care.
Good.
Yes.
Sorry, there's things that start popping in my head.
But that's what this is supposed to do.
Mhm.
This is supposed to, you look at Johnny, you go, oh, Prince up, and then you know what? Remember, it's supposed. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's bullet